It was Piri whose word was final. For him, Olympic and Titanic would confirm Harland and Wolff as the world's greatest shipbuilder. And even the youngest of his workers felt the same.
What's that face about?
The Olympic.
What about the Olympic?
You know they're laying down our keel tomorrow.
Aye.
Our gang's only being sent to do the shore in on her.
So what?
Oh, come on, Alfie. She's gonna be famous all over the world.
So's Titanic. And Mr. Frost says our crew's gonna be fitting Titanic's engines.
Well, Olympic's gonna be built first.
So what?
Just the ship that matters.
My arse.
She is too. Olympic's gonna be the ship that everyone talks about.
Right.
First to start building, first to be launched, first to cross the Atlantic.
Titanic's going to be a mighty ship.
That no one remembers.
The yard was full of expectation. The new gantries waiting for the ships to rise within them, and a handful of workers hardly daring to dream they might yet sail on. Barely 3 months later, Titanic's own keel was being laid. A gigantic steel spine to support her 880-foot length. The keel plate stood the height of a man, easily reached by the 7-ton riveting machines suspended from the gantry. The wooden blocks beneath were carefully angled, ready for the eventual launch. Meanwhile, the steel frames that would form Titanic's ribs were being prepared. In the molding loft, a room the size of a football pitch, full-scale cross-sections of the ship were drawn in chalk, and the steel work that would give her shape was bent to match. One by one, the 300 frames of the hull were reared into place. And Lord Piri's ambitions were also growing. Political ambitions. Piri had always been a unionist, happy with his place in the United Kingdom. Overnight, he turned to nationalism. Ireland would prosper more, he argued, free from rule by London. Many Irishmen shared this vision. They called it Home Rule, but Piri was playing with fire. Those against Home Rule included many of his own workers. As Titanic took shape, a rift was developing in the shipyard.
Is this what you call studying then, young man?
Just taking a wee break, man. Some sight, though, isn't it? There's a lot of men I know down there from the yard. Look, there's Mr. Frost, my foreman.
You best not let him see you taking time away from your studies then. What with all the exams you've got to pass?
Tommy Miller's family had dreams of their own.
Where was the sail to when you built her, Daddy?
America.
Where's America?
I'll show you, son. Here is Ireland. Here is Belfast. And here's America. A lot of people go there. A lot of Irishmen go there.
Why?
Apple pie.
What?
They say they've got the best apple pie in the world. Apple pie like you've never tasted. Covered in cream.
Honest? Can we go?
Tommy,
You're still not yourself, are you?
I'm just a wee bit tired, that's all.
You need to go and see Dr. Henry.
I can't afford it.
An outside lavatory, a tin bath, and just about enough food on the table for the men building Titanic.
And for the most discerning of our first-class passengers, there will be a choice of 39 private suites, each one of which will comprise bedroom, bathroom, private sitting and dining rooms, all fitted out to the highest standards.
Yes, gentlemen, splendid though these plans are, we had agreed to discuss less exotic subjects today. Now then, gentlemen, I propose we install 16 lifeboat stations, 4 lifeboats at each station, giving us up to a total of 64 lifeboats.
Which would exceed Board of Trade regulations by some way.
As Board of Trade regulations stand. But given the size of these ships, we must surely expect them to demand greater lifeboat accommodation.
William?
I'm sure it's best to prepare for all eventualities. Now, if we look at the first-class lounge, the Palace of Versailles.
It had taken a year. The Titanic skeleton was in place. Now it was time for her outer skin. 2,000 steel plates, 30 feet long and 6 feet broad, each one over an inch thick, weighing 3 tons. Plates were fixed to the frames with rivets, but the curving lines of the hull were too complex now for machines. This called for hair's breadth judgment and muscle power. 3 million rivets, red-hot iron stitches would hold this ship together. 1,500 tons of them. As Titanic's bulk grew, underneath her, the work of fixing the wooden shoring continued, hard and dangerous.
Thank God for that, Jimmy.
Beneath the activity, there was unease. The rift over Home Rule was growing. The fiercest opposition came from the Orange Order.
It's Alfie Cunningham, isn't it?
Aye.
You ever thought of joining a lodge, son?
Oh, well, maybe I have, like, but...
Ballymacart Lodge. We meet.
I know we meet.
Well, that's grand. We're there every Monday, Wednesday and Friday nights. I hope to see you.
Aye. Maybe you will.
You wouldn't.
Wouldn't what?
Go to an Orange Lodge meeting?
Who says?
What in Egypt you'd look in a sash and a bowler hat, banging a stupid great drum? Get lost, Flaherty,
Come
would
on,
you?
can't you take a joke?
I'm looking for my sister's husband, Tommy Miller. Do you know him?
Aye, he's over there.
Thomas?
Thomas! Honey, what are you doing here?
It's Jeannie.
The tide in Tommy Miller's life was turning.
I found her on the kitchen floor. Dr. Henry says it's rheumatic fever.
Is it bad, Doctor?
Before antibiotics, rheumatic fever was common. The result, almost certainly, would be heart disease.
Same shape as you've been building for years, isn't it?
Francis Carruthers, the representative from the Board of Trade, charged with ensuring safety standards.
Oh, yes, I'm not disputing the size. They're colossal. But the hydrodynamics haven't changed at all. Long and narrow in beam.
Which is why they're known as the Greyhounds of the Sea.
Or coffin ships, as your rivals refer to them.
No time for joking, Mr. Carruthers. We're here to discuss safety, not aesthetics.
And these discussions, a year before Titanic's launch, would be critical. They would determine who would live, who would die, and they would cost the lives of 2 of the men in that room.
What would happen if she were in a collision?
And were to be holed as a result? Well, I think I can fairly say that our new bulkhead door system is both revolutionary and unique. The damaged area will be completely sealed from the rest of the vessel, hermetically sealed.
In theory, she should stay afloat no matter what the damage. The ship is, in a real sense, her own lifeboat.
Nonetheless, I see you've allowed for 16 lifeboats?
16. I have made allowance for a great deal more than 16.
But 16 will meet the legal requirement exactly. Lord Pirrie knows that.
He has spoken directly to you?
Well, yes.
The provision of lifeboats, the entire design, is my responsibility.
For Carlyle, 40 years with Harland and Wolff, this was breaking point.
The regulations clearly show that 16 lifeboats is sufficient for a vessel of 10,000 tons and over.
Agreed, William. But these ships are 5 times that size. How on earth can we get more than 3,000 people into 16 lifeboats?
I have freely offered a further provision of 4 life rafts as well. We are now giving them more than their regulations demand.
Oh, the regulations are out of date.
This is a theoretical risk only, Alexander. The ships have been designed by you so that they cannot sink.
Don't you see, William? Any human design is fallible. Surely the first rule of safety must be to think the unthinkable.
And you are happy for our passengers to do the same.
What?
Has it occurred to you what they would think if the promenade decks were festooned with lifeboats?
You are concerned the passengers may be alarmed by the lifeboats?
In the numbers you recommend, yes. Our intention is to offer passengers the experience of a lifetime, not to frighten them so much they never want to travel on a White Star ship again.
So, this is one of your economic decisions.
These ships have to sail at a profit, Alexander, and I have to build them at a profit.
And no doubt not having to provide a few dozen lifeboats will add a small but very welcome addition to your profit margin.
You know that's nonsense. Alexander!
It was the end of Carlyle's involvement with the company. Titanic was the last ship he would ever design. Titanic would need a new chief designer. For Lord Pirie, there was only one choice: his nephew, Thomas Andrews. In the spring of that year, 1910, Halley's Comet was visible in the night skies throughout Europe. Some say it was there when Andrews took his wife, Helen, pregnant with their firstborn, to show off his new liner.
She's my ship now, Helen.
Titanic and Thomas Andrews would be inseparable to the very end. By the spring of 1910, Olympic's hull was fully plated. For the workers on Titanic, the challenge was to catch up. Working with hot metal, speed was everything. The riveters were paid on piece rate. The faster they worked, the more they earned. Danger was always close by. Samuel Joseph Scott, aged 15, was the first to die on Titanic. 17 would lose their lives building these ships. Alfie Cunningham was starting work on Titanic's boilers. Theirs was the heartbeat that would pump 30,000 horsepower to the engines. 29 boilers, fed by 159 furnaces, burning over 600 tons of coal each day. The boilers dwarfed the men who built them, but Titanic was designed for efficiency. Excess steam would be diverted through a turbine to increase her power by more than half. And this is where all that energy would be driven, to the giant manganese bronze propellers. A central one of 22 tons, flanked by 2 more, 38 tons each, and 4 times the height of a man. It was these that would drive Titanic through the Atlantic swell, but that was still 2 years away. First, a 200-ton floating crane was needed to lower the engines and boilers into Titanic. A German company was supervising the crane's construction. But as the monster grew, so the rows began.
telling you, bonehead, if you want us up there, you can whistle.
The Belfast men were deeply suspicious of the Germans.
The lads reckon it's none too safe up there, and they might have a point. The way they see it, it's a German crime. Let them risk their own necks. See, a lot of the boys are convinced they're spies. Come here to steal the secrets of our new ships, sell them to our competitors.
No one was better equipped to tackle the problem than the chief draftsman, Roderick Chisholm. His way with words would eventually win him a place on Titanic. Roddy Chisholm had worked his way into management from the shop floor. He could get on with anyone. Better still, he spoke German.
Je schneller der Kran steht, desto schneller werdet ihr alle wieder zu Hause.
National pride was at stake. The Germans agreed to finish the crane themselves. For young men, these were stirring times. Patriotism and religion were to be celebrated. Alfie hadn't joined the Orange Order himself. He was too busy studying. But he could understand the pride felt by those who were Orange men.
You all right there, Alfie?
Fine, Mr. Frost.
Good man.
He was proud, too, of Titanic. This was the launch day for Olympic. Lord Pirrie was never happy to see work stop. Those watching the launch had to forfeit their pay.
Alfie! What are you doing here? Aren't you gonna go watch? Watch what?
You know what? 5 minutes to go. Come on.
You want me to lose half a day's wages just to watch that old tin tub splash into the lagoon?
Just my ship, Alfie.
Aye. And I'm trying to build mine here, if you hadn't noticed.
You're an Egypt, Cunningham. So you are.
With hard work, Alfie might yet get onto Titanic. But today it was Olympic in the limelight. Lord Pirrie had even had her painted white for the photographs. The giant floating crane was ready at last, but the German flag had been raised as a finishing touch. The Belfast men were not impressed.
Mr. Chisholm, that flag is an insult to us all. Those Germans are looking to start trouble here.
Meine Freunde, die Männer hier unten feiern eure unglaubliche Leistung. Euer Mut und euer Geschick sind uns allen ein Beispiel.
Vielen Dank! You tell them to get that rag down, or we'll rip it down!
Kommt herunter! Wir wollen auch die Zukunft unserer Länder anstoßen.
Ich Michael und Chisholm! Ihre Männer sind ein Haufen von Bettnässen, aber wir werden ein Bier mit ihnen trinken.
So where do we stand, Mr. Chisholm?
We've apologized handsomely. And I've promised you all a drink.
The Germans surrendered both the crane and their flag. They were even persuaded to hoist the Union Jack. Soon enough, these men really would be at war. But for now, peace. Six days a week, noise from the yard echoed across Belfast. On Sundays, it stopped. That's when the men brought their families to admire their work.
Now, would you call that a funnel or not? You could fit a tram car in it. Imagine the size of the engine I'm having to build. As needs a funnel that size to take away the smoke.
Now the stage was set for Titanic. It was launch day, and time for differences to be set aside.
So what's going on?
Ah, sure, they've only sent me over to help knock out the shores on Titanic.
He's working on our ship. After all this time of saying she was second best.
Aye, I reckon you'll be permanent, son. Olympic seals off for sea trials this afternoon.
So go on then. Get to work.
Aye, but you be careful under there, son. That's no place for skylarking.
Aye, of course I will. You right then, Michael?
Where are you two off to?
We're travelling first class, so we are.
You what?
We'll be going down the slip hunter. We'll have to help gather in the cables.
That's not fair.
No, it isn't, is it?
A last inspection for Pyria and Ismay. Even without engines and fittings, the hull weighed 24,000 tons. As the timber props were knocked away, her full weight settled onto the sliding way. On the launch platform, Captain Edward J. Smith, who would skipper both Olympic and Titanic. 10 minutes to the launch, and a red flag was hoisted to warn other river traffic to stand clear. Titanic now rested fully on the slipway, thickly coated with 20 tons of liquid soap.
Только пораньше, на часа два, через 5 минут не повторяет, что пора вставать, и я вроде встаю, но опять меня манит кровать. И как она меня такого терпит, водила, чаю налила, погладила, собаку выгулила. А я, наверное, не встаю уже, ей назло. Я люблю ее, не угораздило, повезло. Нет, я правда рад бы раньше встать, но нет сил. И чё, она вечно психует, вот я бы ее точно простил. Говорит, что меня жалко будить, так не буди, ложись со мной, поспи, но ее не переубедить. Ладно, я встаю, вот блин, она-то уже на работе, как всегда меня поцеловала, спящего перед уходом. Каждым вдохом за меня красивая настолько, уверена все 100, она для меня больше Бога. Мне бы подобрать слова, мне бы в небо в сны твои. И это наша история никогда не закончится. Если не хватит слов, да и будить тебя не хочется. Мне бы подобрать слова для тебя лишь. Мне бы в небо сны твои, когда так сладко спишь. И это наша история никогда не закончится. Если не хватит слов, да и будить тебя не хочется. Да мы уже давно так вместе, спрашиваю, а чё не женитесь? Даже не знаю, что ответить. Я вот все пишу песни, мне нужен без нее весь мир. Хоть порою и бесит, но друг без друга никак. Уже будто нолики крестик. Крестить бы нам детей с ней, да пока в квартире тесно. Всему свое время и место. Закончи универ свой, будешь виснуть в декрете. Выберешь платье невесты, мы с тобой достроим дом семейный силами совместными. А что я без тебя? Так-то у меня все есть. Пара верных друзей на подхвате, их заслуги не счесть. Готов залезть на небоскреб, когда тебя нет рядом. Помнишь, как я бегал ночью тебе за шоколадом? Я твоим взглядом околдованный и согретый теплом. Если бы были награды, твой был бы красный диплом. Это не просто слова или звук в пустоту. Закончу как-нибудь банально. Я тебя люблю. Я тебя люблю. Я тебя люблю. Да мы уже давно так вместе. Мне нужен без нее весь мир. Не угорать, слова. Мне бы подобрать слова для тебя лишь. Мне бы в небо сны твои, когда так сладко спишь. И это наша история никогда не закончится. Если не хватит слов, да и будить тебя не хочется. Мне бы подобрать слова для тебя лишь. Мне бы в небо сны твои, когда так сладко спишь. И это наша история никогда не закончится. Ведь мне не хватит слов, да и будить тебя не хочется.